A silent gasp rises in the mind the moment the words land. You feel it like a sudden crack beneath your feet when someone dismisses you, belittles you, treats your presence as if it were meaningless. That electric jolt, a cocktail of shame, anger, and helplessness, surges through your veins. In that instant, your heartbeat accelerates, your thoughts spiral, and the world narrows to a single moment, the moment of disrespect. We've all been there, a colleague's offhand remark at a meeting, a friend's careless joke at your expense, a stranger's sneer on a crowded street. Each slight echoes in our psyche, reminding us of our vulnerabilities. Yet beneath that sting lies something more primal, the fear of losing status, of being rendered insignificant in a world that values power. What if, instead of lashing out or recoiling, you could harness that raw emotion? What if the wound of disrespect could become the spark for calculated strength? Centuries ago, a Florentine strategist distilled this very idea into a doctrine of influence and survival. His name was Machiavelli. He once wrote that a ruler must know how to command not only through force, but through astute manipulation of perception. Today, we'll draw upon his timeless wisdom to transform personal blows into stepping stones for authority. Consider this moment your invitation to step beyond instinct, to learn to respond with strategy instead of reaction, and to reclaim your dignity on your own terms. Welcome to a journey from raw emotion to deliberate power. Florence, 1513. The Arno River glints under a restless sky as power shifts with every breath. In the winding streets, alliances form in hushed corridors and shatter on grand piazzas. Amidst this turbulence, Niccolò Machiavelli moves like a strategist at play, his eyes always calculating, his pen always poised to record the ever-changing dance of influence. Once celebrated as secretary to the Florentine Republic, Machiavelli believed in civic virtue and the fragile promise of self-governance. Yet, when the Medici dukes returned to power, his ideals collided with brutal reality. Exiled from his beloved city, stripped of title and income, he found himself cast out not by invaders, but by those he once called allies. The wounds of that betrayal were more than political. They were personal scars left by the disdain of men who saw him as expendable. In a cramped Spartan study outside Florence's walls, Machiavelli poured his pain into his most enduring work. Every line he wrote crackled with the tension of a man who had tasted humiliation and determined never to feel powerless again. He dissected the rise and fall of republics, the conspiracies lurking in royal courts, and the silent wars waged through reputation and rumor. These pages became his crucible, transforming personal indignity into an arsenal of principles for those who would never be taken by surprise. Consider his exile letters, each a testament to resilience. He pleaded for reinstatement, not out of humility, but to reclaim his position of influence. He understood that respect, once surrendered, invites contempt. And from that realization emerged a doctrine. To command respect, one must first master the art of turning every affront into advantage. By weaving personal struggle and political observation into a single tapestry, Machiavelli crystallized the blueprint of strategic response. His Florence was not merely a backdrop, but the very forge where the sting of disrespect was transmuted into a weapon of statecraft. And today, his insights still echo in boardrooms, social media feuds, and classrooms where power is taught as both science and theater. As we trace his footsteps through Renaissance intrigue, remember, the theater of disrespect played out then is the same drama unfolding within each of us. The question remains, will we be actors driven by impulse, or will we carry Machiavelli's lesson in our veins and turn every slight into a move toward mastery? Disrespect isn't merely social etiquette gone awry. It's a visceral alarm flare wired deep into our brains. Modern neuroscience reveals that being slighted activates the same neural circuits as a physical blow. Functional MRI studies show that the anterior cingulate cortex, which lights up when you stub your toe, also surges to life when someone dismisses your value. In essence, our brains don't distinguish much between social pain and bodily harm. Why this overlap? Evolutionarily, humans survived by belonging to groups. Ostracism meant starvation or death. Being shunned carried dire consequences. Thus, the threat of reduced status or exclusion still registers as life or death urgency. When you perceive disrespect, whether a mocking tone in a boardroom or a cutting comment in an online thread, your amygdala jolts you into fight or flight. Adrenaline floods your system. Your heart pounds, your vision narrows, and your mind zeroes in on the source of the threat. Yet there's another layer, the ego threat reflex. Psychologists describe it as the moment your self-image is under siege. That reflex triggers a cascade of cortisol, amplifying stress, and dumping dopamine as you obsess on rebuttal. This chemical cocktail hooks you in, making you replay the insult, draft mental comebacks, even visualize revenge scenarios. It's addictive. Each mental replay releases another hit of neural reward, keeping you trapped in the cycle of indignation. Dr. Elena Martinez, a social neuroscientist, calls this the loop of contempt and craving. She's found in experiments that participants repeatedly revisit humiliating scenarios in their minds, craving closure or vindication. Meanwhile, their stress hormones spike again, deepening the emotional wound. The result? You stay stuck longer, powerless to move on, and the slight gains ever more weight. There's also the role of mirror neurons, those uncanny cells that fire when we observe others' emotions. When you see someone else being disrespected, on social media or in person, you vicariously feel their pain. This magnifies cultural outrage and fuels viral shaming. What begins as a personal slight can erupt into a collective frenzy, each viewer's neural circuits echoing the original sting. Understanding these mechanisms is not mere academic curiosity. It's the first step to mastery. If disrespect hijacks brain regions tied to pain and reward, then reclaiming control demands rewiring those responses. Awareness of the amygdala's alarm, the cortisol dopamine loop, and the mirror neuron cascade gives you the power to interrupt the automatic replay, to step out of the cycle. Machiavelli recognized that human nature is both our greatest asset and our most treacherous foe. By shining a light on these hidden processes, we equip ourselves to transform emotional wildfire into strategic calm. In the next section, we'll take these insights and forge them into a practical four-step Machiavellian blueprint, one that turns the raw sting of disrespect into a calculated instrument of influence. In every moment of insult lies an opportunity, if you can see beyond the burn of the initial wound. Machiavelli's brilliance was not merely in exposing human cruelty, but in forging a weapon from the very force that threatened to destroy you. He distilled his approach into a concise four-step blueprint for transforming disrespect into your most potent leverage. 1. Assess the source. Not all insults carry equal weight. The first move is to pause and observe. Who strikes the blow and why? Is it a rival seizing at your vulnerabilities or a pawn acting on behalf of someone more powerful? In Renaissance Florence, Machiavelli counseled princes to scrutinize every whisper in the court, to map alliances and treacheries with painstaking care. Imagine a courtier mocking your lineage at a banquet. Does he hold title, wealth, influence, or is he a jester whose voice bubbles with envy? By identifying motive and capacity, you transform blind rage into strategic clarity. You weigh whether the affront threatens your domain or serves as trivial gossip. This simple reframing shifts your power back into your hands. 2. Control your frame. Your reaction is the second battlefield. Let instinct lash you with wide-eyed fury and you surrender the narrative. Machiavelli warned that visible anger begets contempt. Unpredictability invites enemies. Instead, master the art of serene composure. Picture a modern boardroom. A colleague publicly questions your credibility. Your heartbeat drums beneath the table, but your face remains calm, voice measured. You lean in as if intrigued, an almost conspiratorial tilt that disarms the attacker. The room senses your calm, and uncertainty creeps into the challenger's posture. By exerting control over your own display, you reclaim the moral high ground and force your adversary to scramble for footing. 3. Employ strategic counters. Once you've assessed the source and steadied your frame, it's time to strike, but with precision, not passion. Machiavelli's counsels ranged from planting rumors that undermine your foes to killing with kindness by praising them in public while undermining them in private. Consider a modern influencer feud. When insulted in an Instagram story, rather than retaliate with another insult, the slighted party reposts a flattering memory of the instigator, casting doubt on the instigator's credibility and generating curiosity. Followers sense an undercurrent of irony, and the instigator's original jab recoils back onto them, looking petty. In politics, this might take the form of a seemingly innocuous press statement that subtly repositions the narrative, turning your rival's accusation into proof of your own integrity. I appreciate your concerns about my record. It shows the stakes are high and that leadership matters. Watch how the media picks up an unassuming phrase, and suddenly the original insult fades into a footnote. 4. Convert to advantage. The final and most transformative step is to turn the entire episode into a showcase of your strength. Machiavelli believed that genuine power emerges when even your adversaries accept and amplify your greatness. After executing your strategic counter, seize the moment to broaden its impact. If a rival challenged your expertise, publish a comprehensive article or host a live discussion that addresses the very topic you were attacked on. Frame it as a service to the community. In light of recent debates, I felt compelled to share. Suddenly, your adversary's insult becomes the catalyst for your own demonstration of mastery. In Florence, Machiavelli recounted how Cesare Borgia would publicly praise a disloyal noble for his virtues, then quietly cut his lines of supply. The rumor mill overshadowed the execution. The noble, once insulted, became the unwitting instrument of Borgia's fame. Today, the same principle applies in digital realms. Turn hashtags of contempt, "your name is trash," into "your name is wisdom" by unveiling a viral thread that outshines the original slight. By meticulously following these steps, assess the source, control your frame, employ strategic counters, and convert to advantage, you neutralize the sting of disrespect and, rather than remain its victim, ascend through it. Machiavelli's four-step blueprint is not about vengeance for its own sake. It is about mastering the currents of human will, turning emotional uproar into deliberate influence. As we move forward, keep these strategies close. They are your shield and your sword. In the next chapter, we'll witness them in action in a modern digital coup, an Instagram feud that becomes a masterclass in Machiavellian poise. Scroll through your feed and you'll find the battleground, an Instagram story that vanishes in 24 hours but leaves permanent ripples. Meet Lena Hart, a wellness influencer with 2 million followers, and Max Reed, a rising voice in fitness. One evening, Max posts a seemingly offhand story, a clip of Lena's recent yoga reel overlaid with the caption, "When your mindfulness routine looks like choreographed daydreaming." Just saying. A flurry of likes and snickers follows, and Lena's phone explodes with notifications. Rather than react in indignation, Lena executes a textbook Machiavellian maneuver. Step 1. Assess the source. Max's story frames him as mentally agile but hungry for attention. His platform is smaller. His brand thrives on controversy. Lena's team confirms he's angling for a broader audience by targeting bigger names. Step 2. Control your frame. Instead of an angry rebuke, Lena quietly uploads a serene sunrise reel, captioned, "Grateful for every sunrise and every reminder to stay grounded." Hyang's morning mindset. Notice the tone, serene, subtly ignoring Max's jab while reinforcing her core message of calm and gratitude. Step 3. Strategic counter. Behind the scenes, Lena's social strategist whispers to key micro-influencers, Isn't it wild how controversy often masks insecurity? These influencers share memes about the difference between confidence and provocation, never naming names, but their followers connect the dots. Max's attempt at mocking her now reads as forced drama. Step 4. Convert to advantage. 2 days later, Lena hosts an Instagram Live titled "Finding Calm Amidst Chaos," publicly addressing the noise we let in. She articulates practical breathing techniques, invites audience questions, and ends with an exclusive announcement: a new meditation challenge. The live session spikes to over 150,000 viewers, trending under number morning mindset. In the aftermath, Max's original story is replayed through the lens of Lena's composed victory. His slam becomes the catalyst for her most successful engagement yet. What began as a fleeting slight turned into a masterclass. By assessing motives, mastering her frame, deploying subtle counters, and building on the moment, Lena didn't just neutralize the insult, she amplified her influence. This is the Instagram cold coup, and it's waiting to be executed in your own digital arena. Power, once seized, has a corrosive undertone, especially when wielded through manipulation. As you adopt Machiavelli's disciplined response to disrespect, you enter a moral twilight where strategy can slip into cruelty without conscious notice. The very tactics that neutralize insults, planting doubts, weaponizing reputation, orchestrating public perception, carry the risk of eroding empathy and trust. Consider the leader who constantly leverages secret intelligence to preempt critics. Each calculated move cements authority, but it also breeds paranoia, both in the leader and those around them. Allies begin to guard their true opinions, fearful of unseen reprisals. Respect becomes hollow, a facade maintained by fear rather than genuine regard. At that point, Machiavellian mastery has mutated into tyranny. There's also the lure of escalation. A well-placed rumor might unseat a rival once, but each successive use demands greater stakes, more devastating whispers, more elaborate entanglements. Before long, you risk becoming trapped in an arms race of psychological warfare, where every slight triggers a counterstrike, and both sides spiral deeper into hostility. What began as self-defense turns into perpetual conflict. Philosopher Dr. Amara Singh warns that the line between strategic honor and calculated harm is razor thin. She argues that true dignity lies not only in reclaiming status, but in preserving one's humanity. If you sacrifice compassion for effectiveness, you may win battles, but you lose the war for integrity. At this crossroads, you face a choice. Apply Machiavelli's blueprint with restraint, deploying tactics only when absolutely necessary and always with clear-eyed ethical boundaries, or surrender to the intoxicating edge of power. The question isn't merely whether you can turn disrespect to advantage, it's whether you should. In the next section, we'll scale this dilemma to the public arena, exploring how mass media and politics mirror this personal struggle and how you can maintain both influence and integrity on the grand stage. We live under a constant barrage of outrage. Every scroll, every headline, even casual conversations have been weaponized, hoisted on the flagpoles of public opinion. Disrespect no longer whispers in private corridors. It screams across social feeds, echoing in news studios, and spilling onto public squares. But what if I told you this frenzy isn't accidental? It's a finely tuned mechanism, an engine designed to fracture trust, to keep us reactive and divided. First, the amplifier. Algorithms reward the incendiary. A slight, real or manufactured, spreads like wildfire because outrage is the currency of attention. Think of the pundit who floats a half-truth, watches the outrage swell, then sits back as unified fury builds around his brand. The moment you see red, your rational defenses collapse. The social media strategist smiles, counting your clicks. Next, the fragmentation. Politics has become a gladiator's pit, where respect is a relic. Parties fling barbs not to debate ideas, but to score viral points. When a politician insults an opponent, the insult eclipses the issue. We don't dissect policy. We dissect character, posture, tone. We become enthralled by the spectacle. And all the while, deeper structures stay hidden. Lobbying firms, opaque funding networks, backroom alliances. Disrespect distracts us. Spectacle replaces scrutiny. Then, the feedback loop. Outraged communities demand ever louder outrage. A single tweet can mobilize millions, then pivot to demand a public apology, then a resignation, then criminal charges. The cycle repeats. Each iteration trains us. Feel first, think later. The more visceral the insult, the less room for nuance. We become Pavlov's dogs, salivating at the buzz of a like or a retweet. But Machiavelli teaches us that every system has its vulnerabilities. In this modern matrix, the quickest way to disarm an outrage mob is to refuse the bait. Silence is not passivity. When you decline the arena, you force the combatants to waste their fury on empty air. A well-timed statement, delivered calmly, punctures the chaos. Precision over volume, quality over quantity. Finally, leverage the spectacle. If society insists on listening to vitriol, then give them something more profound. Frame your response not as defensive outrage, but as a clarion call to reason. Highlight the real stakes behind the shouting match, the policies neglected, the communities unheard. Shift the audience from emotional reaction to critical reflection. This is how you reclaim the narrative. In a world engineered for conflict, the ultimate act of power is to choose your battlefield. When media pundits taunt and politicians sneer, don't race to match their venom. Step back, analyze the machinery of outrage, and then strike with clarity. Because in the echo chamber of modern politics, true influence belongs to those who refuse to be swept away by the tide of disrespect, and instead steer it to their own course. Now, the question isn't, why did they disrespect me? But what will I do next? Remember these 4 pillars. Assess the source. Before reacting, pause and ask, who just crossed that line? What do they truly want? A fleeting ego boost? A power play? Knowing their motive turns chaos into data. Control your frame. Disrespect is a provocation. Don't take the bait. Maintain calm. Let everyone else burn their moral capital while you build yours by listening, evaluating, and speaking only when it shifts the balance. Strategic counters. Retaliation need not be raw emotion. A well-placed compliment can disarm hostility. A private word can unsettle without spectacle. A measured truth in public can fracture their credibility more sharply than any insult. Convert to advantage. Every slight carries hidden currency. Use that moment to highlight your strengths. Turn their doubt into your demonstration. Show that you rise when they expect you to fall. These aren't philosophical abstractions. They're a disciplined framework. Next time you feel the familiar sting, resist the impulse to lash out. Instead, catalog the offender, steady your own posture, choose your counterpunch, and then wield the entire exchange to amplify your position. Disrespect may be the spark, but with this toolbox, you wield the spark. You decide the fire it lights. The manor doors close softly. Our protagonist stands alone in a quiet hall, the echo of that whispered insult, now replaced by a steady, measured breath. No triumphant music swells, only the profound resonance of self-command. In the aftermath of calculated restraint, we glimpse true power, dignity earned, not seized by fury. Machiavelli once warned that it is better to be feared than loved, yet he also recognized the supreme authority of a leader who can master his own passions. We've traced that journey, from the raw sting of disrespect to the calm calculation of a strategic response. Now consider the metamorphosis. Anger is volatile, dignity endures. When you refuse the bait, you transform aggression into an invitation for others to reveal their motives, for allies to rally around your composure, and for hidden agendas to unravel in the light of your poise. This is no passive exit from conflict. but a tactical withdrawal into the command center of your own character. You gift the world a moment of paused chaos, then fill the silence with reasoned authority. In that space, you don't merely survive the slight, you harness it, reshaping the narrative on your terms. So the next time disrespect arrives unannounced, remember, you hold the reins. The world may clamor for spectacle, but you answer with calculated stillness. And in that stillness, you wield the ultimate weapon, strategic dignity. Fade to black, leaving behind a question that echoes long after the credits. When confronted with contempt, will you roar or will you rise?